It's time to mix it up this week on Rich Sports Talk. Instead of looking at this week, we are going to look forward into the future to see what New York Jets on the current roster could be a part of the 2026 manifest, why Todd Rod Taylor gives this team the best chance to evaluate what is here, and what key Jets do we need to evaluate down the stretch. All this and much more coming up on this episode of Rich Sports Talk. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of Rich Sports Talk, your home for all the latest and greatest on the New York Jets. Make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube to not miss any of our live streams and participate in the live streams. Super chat to jump to the front of the line. Guarantee your chat and comment is seen and read, and of course, to donate to the channel. If you can't join us live or you want to take us on the go, we are available wherever podcasts are available. If you can podcast it, you can listen to Rich Sports Talk. So, usually on Fridays, I like to do a preview, but look, to be honest, I think this is going to be one of those games down the stretch where it's not going to be a pretty one for the Jets. I think this is a bad matchup for the Jets, even though I think the Jets have improved the run defense. Lamar Jackson, I don't think they have the athleticism on the defense to compete. I think the only way this is a close game is it becomes basically a barn burner, a 30-plus point game, and until this offense and Tyrod Taylor can prove they can do that, I'm a little bit wary. So I thought, what do I want to talk about this week? And I've talked about the decision to go to Tyrod Taylor and why I thought it was important, because to me, it wasn't just about the best option to win. It's the best chance to evaluate what this team has. And all throughout the week, we've gotten different answers from Aaron Glenn. He's made the decision. Now, Justin Fields is technically the backup right now. When asked about Brady Cook, he did mention they like how he is developing. They have a plan for him. So let me look at this quarterback situation. And I know a lot of people wanted Justin Fields. I don't think it's a smart idea to have Justin Fields as the number 2 going forward. I was of the opinion they should sign a veteran like a Desmond Ridder, but it's clear that they didn't love the guys out there because they did work out Ridder at one point. But for those thinking Brady Cook will never see the field this year, I have a feeling he will. My thought process right now is he's going to get more reps and snaps in practice. I think that the end goal for Brady Cook is probably the last 2 to 3 games of the season, see if he has anything, see if he could be a potential backup for this team. So for those thinking that you want to see Brady Cook play quarterback, I think you will at some point. I don't think Tyrod Taylor is making it through the rest of the season, but I do think that the Jets have laid it out that, yeah, he's not going to play now, but there's a chance. So looking right now, the Jets have key questions. We know they're going to have to attack the quarterback position, whether it be through a trade, free agency, the draft. Again, the way this draft is looking, projecting, maybe not the best year that you need to draft a quarterback, but it is clear that the Jets need to fill out this roster. It is clear that the Jets have holes on this roster and a lot of questions. And right now, the last games of the season is to answer these questions. I think Tyrod Taylor gives you the best chance to do it. Because for better or worse, he's going to push the football down the field. He's going to throw the football down the field. And right now, the Jets need to figure out who's going to be a part of this team in 2026. You want to continue to see Aaron Glenn and the staff continue to get better. I think they've been more competitive. You want to see them get away from the penalties that rear their ugly heads in New England. You want to see this offense develop. You want to see this offense continue to mesh, especially the offensive line. And you want to see what players are going to have an impact next year. It is clear that the Jets have made a lot of turnover on this roster, and I don't think they're going to be done. I really believe that this team is going to add at least another player or two to this mix. And a great example is this week. They went and got Kalen Saunders. Now, when asked about Kalen Saunders today, it appears that he's likely not going to play this weekend. I thought there was a chance Harrison Phillips did not practice today. I think that was another reason why Saunders was signed. Seems like Phillips is banged up a bit. Could Saunders suit up? Potentially, but it does seem like they're erring on the side of they want him to be up to speed with the playbook. So I would predict probably next week we will see Kalen Saunders. But I do think that this is going to be a team that's going to add more pieces, and they've been aggressive. And speaking of the new pieces, I think the 2 biggest pieces to evaluate down the stretch run on the offensive side are A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie. It's clear that the Jets took a risk here with both these. And look, A.D. Mitchell, the scouting report, you love all the physical tools. Tanner Engstrom even talked about in his press conference the other day how they love the physicality, the ability to create separation, the ability to beat people down the field. I mean, he was beating one of the best corners in football, but the problem is the drops. This is going to be someone that is going to get a lot of targets, especially with Tyrod Taylor. And I would expect them to have at least 1 to 2 deep balls to A.D. Mitchell in this game. And John Mechie, I think, will be this team's number 2 receiver. But the thing is with these 2 receivers, and I really preach this because, again, I know the Jets want to find that true number 2. I think that number 2 is going to come this offseason. I get the feeling that the Jets are going to look to add a veteran number 2 receiver because you have a great number 1. Especially if this team's going to bring a young quarterback, as much as we talk about a number 2 receiver and the upside the draft might bring, bringing in a veteran that understands playbooks, understands route concepts, and is just a solid wide receiver, I do think is a very important thing to have in a wide receiving room. And when I look at this team, I remember when they brought in Davis a couple of years ago with Zach Wilson. I do think he was a great veteran presence for that room, and I think you need someone like that again as a solid number 2. You could take a swing at someone young in the draft, but really for the number 2, I would like a veteran, which leads us back to A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie. And to a smaller portion, Arian Smith. But especially for Mechie and Mitchell, these are former second-round picks. These are both guys that are under 25. These are both guys that still have plenty of football potentially in front of them. You want to get to the end of the season, and even if it's just one of them, if I come away at the end of the season, I say, you know what? John Mechie looks like a really solid number 3. Can play in the slot, good possession receiver, probably won't stretch the field, but you know what? He's a good number 3. Or I come out at the end of the season and go, you know what? A.D. Mitchell, maybe not a number 2, but a number 3 that you can stretch the field with, can make some plays in a game, explosive player. There's some upside to his game. Or even Arian Smith, who, again, I don't think will show as much as these other 2 because, again, where he was drafted, I think Mechie is more – Arian Smith was more of a project anyways. But if one of them can come out – I'd come out of this camp saying, I know Garrett's our 1. But I'd come out and say, you know what? I really like Mechie as our number 4 and slot receiver. I really like A.D. Mitchell as a good number 3. It means that this Jet team doesn't have to address as many holes in the offseason and in the draft, which I think is a very important thing when building a roster. So that's what I want to see is how they perform. And look, I don't think that this team's going to be done adding offensive pieces. Like, one guy I would keep an eye on, and one position I don't think he's getting talked about, is the running back position. And look, I think this team's going to try to keep Breece Hall. I think that this team likes Isaiah Davis. But one guy that could maybe be lost in the shuffle is Braylon Allen, because don't forget, this is a regime that did not draft him. And I keep stressing this with this team. If Aaron Glenn and Darren Muji didn't bring these guys in, I think you can expect or have some expectation that guys could be moved out here. I mean, look, they've moved Sauce, they've moved Quinnen, they've moved Michael Carter. These are guys that weren't a part of their regime. They were guys that they didn't draft. They didn't have stock invested in them. So when I look at Braylon Allen, who, again, I think has a lot of upside, but has been hurt this season, no timetable seeming when he's back. Could there be a move like this? A guy I keep an eye on would be Dameon Pierce from the Texans. They released him. He's 25 years old, 5'10", but 215 pounds. Could give the Jets that bit of a hammer running back that could be that power back in between the tackles, has 8 career touchdowns, over 1,600 career yards. Maybe the Jets look for a player like that, some running back that's cut. And especially during this postseason run, maybe there's maybe a week where the Jets can take advantage of the rosters, where maybe, let's say, the Bills or the Patriots one week have to keep a guy out the 53 because they're thin in a position. And maybe if you're Darren Muji, you can pounce and get that guy on the waiver wire. That's how you build a good team, and that's how good GMs have to operate. And I want to see if they can continue to do that. And under Tyrod Taylor, I want to see them really utilize the tight ends. I think Ruckert is selling into a nice number 2 tight end. But Mason Taylor, I really like this kid. Can we have him be the first progression in a couple of these reads? Can we move him outside to get him maybe some mismatches on the outside a little bit? I want to see more creativity from this offense, because you're not basically having to run now a service academy style offense with Justin Fields. You have a quarterback now that you can move around. And look, I think you saw a very different play calling in just the half against the Panthers. The Jets did that trick play where Tyrod Taylor can hit the receiver in stride. The Jets score a touchdown. I mean, the play calling was better because I think the offensive coordinator trusted that he had a quarterback that could function in the offense. And I do think that I want to see this tight end position wants to be improved. But again, if there's a receiver or an offensive player you want to talk about, let me know. And again, let me get to some of your comments before I shift over to the defense, because I do have some strong thoughts on defensive players and also personnel that I want to talk about. But let's get to some of your comments. The Manifest Destiny. All right. Danger Zone also will be on later tonight. Go check out his channel if you're new to our channel. Has a lot of great Jets content. And again, looking forward to being on the Danger Zone again soon. I've been on the show a couple times. Looking forward to the next time. We'll have to have Danger Zone on here as well. Drones, AD Bear bring his hands with this week. I agree, Drones. But look, I defend him a little bit after the game. First game with the Jets. Justin Fields wasn't accurate. I think part of it, too, for these receivers is getting in rhythm. But I would look at basically doing that. And look, they could still draft a receiver, Drones. I'm not ruling it out. I could see them going the veteran route as well. The one thing that you're right about this class. The one big thing about this draft class, when you really look at it, is there is a lot of wide receiver talent, which the Jets obviously need. But I also look at this team. I look at right now where the strengths of this class. Another position is the defensive end position. I think that is definitely a position where when I look at this class, you have Arvell Reese from Ohio State. You have Ruben Bain from Miami. Again, the quarterbacks will be the big driving force in this draft. But like you said, Carnell Tate's a really talented wideout from Ohio State. Jordan Tyson from Arizona State's a kid I love. I love the ability he has to play. You look at Keldrick Falk from Auburn. He's a huge edge. And I think he could be someone I could see as well. Again, the hard part you wonder is, will he remain school? Falk, to me, kind of seems like he's someone that would fit this defense, because you look at how they're looking to build this defense. You look at the players they brought in. They want to be a big physical defense. And when I look at Keldrick Falk, he's a 6'6", 285-pound defensive edge. And he's not exactly the best pass rusher, only about a 13% win rate, I think. But he reminds me of a guy that's a really great first and second down defensive end. If they feel they can develop the pass rush move, that's someone I could see them keep an eye on. Now, again, Bain's also a big edge, 275. It's not like a Will McDowell who's closer to like a 250. But like Arvell Reese, I'm not sure the Jets would be interested in him. Again, he can move all over the field, but he's a 240-pound player. Can you put him in the right positions? Do they want to move a player over the defense? I mean, we'll have to see what they want to do. But, I mean, Drones, you're right. Mekhi Lemon from USC is a really talented receiver. There's a lot of great edges, like I was saying, lots of linebackers. That's another underrated position. Look, I don't think the Jets will take a linebacker early, but I could see them exploring, especially with all the picks they have. To me, the one outlier, and I'd love to see the Jets draft him, but number one, I don't know what they're going to do with the quarterback. Number two, if they go up and move for a quarterback, or if they don't, I don't know where they're picking. It's so hard because the safety position isn't valued highly. Again, Kyle Hamilton, even we were looking at him being a top 10 pick in that draft class, and he got outside the top 10. I mean, if Caleb Downs makes it to the teens, he'd be someone I'd love the Jets to take. I just can't see the Jets taking a safety top 5 or even top 10, just because I think the edge position is so much more important. The wide receiver position is a need on this team. And also, and let's be frank, the quarterback position as well. Oh, some more draft content from Milk D471. I'm drafting Jeremiah Love, then the number 2 receiver with the first 2 picks. Then in the second round, drafting a left guard and a center or an O lineman and number 2 tight end. I don't think they necessarily need a number 2 tight end with Rucker. Offensive line, maybe day 3 pick. But here's the other thing we're not talking about. And again, I love talking about the draft as much as anyone, but when I talk about the draft, I really focus on the top picks. And I think a lot of this, the picture becomes more clear after we get through free agency and also re-signing, because I can see the offensive line talking point, but here's the thing. The Jets have a ton of money now. Is there a world where they bring back both John Simpson and AVT, move Tippmann back to center, or do they give AVT a 1-year contract and then maybe draft the guy on round 3 or 4 to develop into starting guard? I mean, there's a lot of different options. I don't think tight end will be on the highest point of the list, but we'll see. Wide receiver, again, I don't know what they will look at. I don't know if they want more of a veteran presence. And again, we don't know how they're going to evaluate this quarterback class. If they view one of these quarterbacks, it's definitely something as well. I will definitely check out that new intro, Danger Zone. I'm looking forward to the show tonight. Yeah, I would give it. I think you can bring back the AVT thing is fast, and I'll get to the defense in a little bit. AVT, to me, it just makes too much sense. I don't think he's going to get a big offer in free agency. It gives him a place to work with a team that he's grown up with. It gives him a place to work with the training staff that he's worked with before. And look, this is a great offensive line. I really think it's showing the potential of how good it can be. And look, AVT was a left guard. Is there a world where you move him to left guard? I mean, I love John Simpson. A lot of this comes down to how they view the offensive lineman. They might really like Tippmann. I've said this going back to when they signed Myers. We don't know what the staff views Tippmann. Tippmann, again, you have to remember, he's a big center. He's 6'6". One of the reasons you see centers usually on the shorter side is because they need that extra leverage on the interior of the offensive line. And you can tell sometimes he had some issues with the leverage. Again, I'm not saying he was bad at the center position. I think he was a good center. But maybe this team likes his size, his pulling ability at guard. The other thing, too, is you have to wonder with John Simpson. I think he loves being a part of this team. I think this organization loves him. But you never know what his agent might tell him. They might tell him, John, look, you've had an incredible run with the Jets. This might be your last chance to test free agency. And the Jets might make him a good offer. But there might be a team that has an even worse offensive line. And you see it every offseason. How many times does an offensive guard break the bank, get over $20+ million a year in a crazy contract because a team has a ton of money, they have no offensive line? I mean, he might just get to the point where it's like, look, I love the Jets. I like what they're doing here, but this team's going to pay me 1.5 times my market value. I'm going to take that contract. So forget about what they want. It's what I want. I want AVT2 back, man. I do too. All right, again, super chat, Joe on the front of the line. Let's talk about the defense. We talked about the key members of the offense, and let's start with the defense. And we'll start with one person in particular, and that's Steve Wilks. When the Jets hired Steve Wilks, and again, I feel like you have to be honest, I like the hiring of Steve Wilks for one reason. It wasn't about his defense. It was about having someone that's been a former head coach be there for Aaron Glenn this first year. I think that Steve Wilks, unless he shows me some dramatic turnaround, that he needs to go. And I think that Aaron Glenn can find someone from a former staff, someone else out there to come and be a DC. Because when I look at this defense is not a great defense. They don't create turnovers. And part of it is the offensive script has been so bad. They've been behind in games. But you also look, too, at how this team is built. They don't really have a ball hawk on this defense. I think that their technique is good. They're physical corners at the line, but they don't have the ball skills. And the other big thing, too, is this blitzing. Like when Steve Wilks, when you watch the tape, their blitzes are so predictable, and you've heard it around the league. The Jets want to blitz, but they don't throw anything at you. They don't mix it up. They don't really disguise their blitzes incredibly well. And that to me is very frustrating. And I've been screaming for more creativity. And you also have to look at the personnel. One thing that the Jets have now done, and especially now over the last 2 weeks, they've gotten a lot more size on this defense. You got Smith from Dallas, who's well over 350 pounds. You've added Kalen Saunders. Could this Jets play with more bigger fronts, maybe do more 3-4 fronts and have Will McDonald line up on the outside so he can get outside the tackle shoulder? Can you do more blitzes? Again, the hard part with the blitzing is with this linebacking core. I think Quincy can be a good blitzer. Sherwood struggled this year, but I want to see him get more involved. Kiko isn't really that. He's a first or second down run stopper. Now, again, with McCrary Ball coming back, that could be a guy who's got a little bit of speed to him. Could you mix and match a little bit on this defense? Because right now, the defensive ends, Will McDonald, again, I don't think he's been the greatest scripts, but outside of him and Jermaine, you're not getting a pass rush. And look, Juwan Briggs, I think, has been a great revelation. He's been someone that I think is proving he can not only be an early down D tackle, but can evolve into an every down defensive tackle. He's shown the best burst of this group. But you need to get pressure and you need to get creative, whether it's different fronts, different blitzes. And maybe part of it last week or the last couple of weeks is they don't trust the guys. But at this point, just throw caution to the wind. Like, can you dial up, maybe not for AZ Thomas because he just got hurt, but can you dial up a Brownlee corner blitz? I mean, Brownlee's a big physical corner. We know he's a testy dude. I could see him being a good blitzer coming off the edge in certain packages. Can you maybe move Will McDonald around on the field to maybe have him line up as a linebacker or a middle linebacker so he can kind of get a gap to rush through? Can you move Quincy to the edge on a certain play, or Jamie and Sherwood? And look, you don't have great safeties right now, but could you maybe get Adams on a blitz one time? Like, I just want to see some creativity, or maybe even Malachi Moore. Malachi Moore is a strong safety, really good at coming downhill. Maybe design at least a blitz or two package for him. I just want to see more creativity. If I don't see creativity from this defensive coordinator, if I don't see a defense that starts forcing turnovers, look, the writing to me is on the wall. He needs to go. And I do think he will eventually be replaced at the end of the season. I also think, too, this is a good opportunity, and I don't think they're going to fully do this, but I know every Jet fan would want this. I'm done with Michael Clemens at this point, especially with his contain. You saw it again against the Patriots. I mean, I think Eric Watts is going to get more run again. Watts changed his number to Quinnen's number. At this point, too, I would give Watts a run at defensive end. At least will he stay home and not get fooled out? Because the tape on Clemens is just atrocious. I don't know if they'll give Barron more run. Again, he had a tackle for a loss in the last game. At this point, I'd rather at least go with the unknowns in Barron and Watts, because I know what Michael Clemens is. He's a terrible football player. But you also want to see how this linebacking core does. And look, if Quincy continues to play like this, I know I've talked about this on the show. I didn't think he'd get a contract extension, but one thing about this front office is I think they're willing to look at mistakes they've made and move off of them. If they think Quincy can be really good for a year or two, I would try to lock it up. Now, again, I don't know if Quincy's going to want to be here. I don't know if he's going to want to travel to Dallas with his brother. But if you can get a deal done, I would. The other thing, too, is they have to evaluate Sherwood. Now, again, Sherwood's been up and down, but he's already been benched this year as a captain. I do think you could get something on the market. He's still going to be a 25, 26-year-old linebacker if the Jets can eat some of the money. And, again, I do think guys like Saleh or Ulbrich would definitely be interested in. But I got to see something from these linebackers down the stretch. And look, AZ Thomas, the good news is he's cleared the concussion protocol. I want to see how he plays down the stretch. I feel like with Brownlee, the last game or two, the penalties, people were criticizing. Look, he wasn't great, but they were also asking him to play outside where he's clear. He's more comfortable in the slot. Now that he goes back to the slot, will we see him elevate his play? I think Brandon Stevens has, had a rocky up and down game last week, but I think Brandon Stevens can. One thing I'd love to see, especially against the Ravens, can he force a turnover in his revenge game? That would be something. And look, AZ Thomas, I thought he's shown some potential so far. You just want to see, can you pencil him as a starting corner next year? I'm not even saying being a great corner, but just a legitimate starting number 2 corner next year. That, to me, if you find that in round 3, is something very important. You want to see how he does down the stretch. And look, I love the add to AZ Thomas. I think he's a fighter. I think he's someone that's not going to give up on any play. And I also want to see Quantez Stiggers get more to run at safety. Like, I'm sorry, like Malachi Moore, I like seeing him out there. I like what they're doing. But I've seen enough of Tony Adams. Tony Adams doesn't tackle. Tony Adams is out of position. I would give Stiggers a run and just see what you have. Because, look, I think of all the positions, we're going to see major turnover on the defensive end position. I think we're going to see the linebacking core get upgraded more than people expect. I think the corner room might get an addition or two. I don't think it'll be anything drastic. But I do think the safety room is going to be completely different. The Jets are going to have at least, at bare minimum, one, maybe two starters. Maybe they view Malachi Moore as a third safety. But I do think those are guys that we definitely have to keep an eye on. Thanks, Danger Zone. Always appreciate it. Again, hit that like, subscribe button to Rich Sports Talk, and also check out Danger Zone. Danger Zone, let me know when you want me on, because, again, we need to give these great Jets fans more therapy. Let me know when you want me on again. Would love to want to talk draft, want to talk this season or the roster. Let me know. Speaking of Danger Zone, thoughts on the to the time room with a premium pick. I'm Drew or Sati or Taylor. So here's my thing. I think a lot of it comes down to the board, but it also comes down to the type of offense that they want to run. Now, again, a lot of the league wants to run this 12 personnel. I do think that the Jets are looking to do that as well. And look, I think that Jeremy Ruckert has been better this year, but it's clear that he's a low end tight end too, which is fine. He's a low end tight end too. But when I look at the tight end class, I just feel like the Jets, they've already used a premium pick. And the hard part too is also projecting who's going to stay in school. But I just look at the tight end class right now. I really like Sadiq. I think he's a mid first round pick at this point. Really fluid athlete. I like the blocking ability that he brings. And again, you look, he's 6 touchdown receptions, which is second at FBS this year. I do think that the tight end position is something they'll keep an eye on, but I don't think it'll be a first round pick. I think this team will look to, and a lot of, again, Danger Zone comes down. If they had a veteran number 2 receiver, maybe they look at the tight end position to add to as well. I also wouldn't rule them drafting an offensive lineman, not in round 1, but maybe round 2. I mean, there's a lot of different ways the Jets can go. I've been a proponent of maybe they don't love this quarterback class. Maybe they draft a quarterback mid day 3 or day 3 quarterback or late day 2. Again, we'll have to see, because the thing too with this quarterback class, and we'll dive more into it too. And again, we don't know who's coming out. We don't know if Moore's coming out, if he's going to go back to Oregon. We don't know if Sellers is going to come out. I'm guessing Sellers is going to stay in school. My thoughts are this, and I've really thought about this, especially with Fernando Mendoza. And again, I'm still watching the tape. I like Fernando Mendoza. I think Fernando Mendoza can be a quality NFL starter in the National Football League. But my thoughts are this. If you think he's a solid quarterback, that's one thing. You can win with a solid quarterback. But if you're going to draft a guy in the top 10, or especially trading multiple picks, you need to have someone that you have to have someone to answer this question. Will this quarterback have the talent to go toe-to-toe with the best quarterbacks in the AFC? If the answer is probably not, then I don't think you should invest in that quarterback. Because you can see, like, good quarterback play, you can be successful. I think a good comp is Tua. Tua is a good example. He's a starting NFL quarterback. He can get Miami to the playoffs in good years. But is he going to overcome the great teams in the AFC? I don't think so. Because think about the AFC. The NFC, it's one thing to have a good quarterback. The AFC right now today, when you look at the quarterbacks you have to compete with, especially to get to the playoffs, there's a lot of firepower. In this division alone, you're going to have Drake May and Josh Allen. If you feel like you do not have a quarterback that can go toe-to-toe with them, you have an issue. Because you have to beat them or try to take games from them 4 times a year. And good to see from you, Wild Chew, again. Thank you very much. I think Ruckert is a low number 2, and I do like the idea about playing Will McDonald. Again, that's the problem. When we're more creative on here too, than the actual coaching staff. That's what's alarming. But let me get back to my point. So Mendoza, I think, is a really good quarterback. I like a lot of his game, but I think the Lions are another good example. I know people roll their eyes. But the Lions are a team with Jared Goff that they're a very good team. No one would attest to that. But there have been games over the last year or two where you think Detroit's just going to run away with it or should be the overwhelming favorite, and they don't. Because while Jared Goff is a really good quarterback, there are games where you can tell he is limited. And right now with NFL teams, and this is, I think, why I look at Mendoza, I think Mendoza's a great pocket passer. But in the league today, you have to win with your legs as well. You have to be a good athlete. You have to be dynamic. And there's a lot I like. I love the floor for Mendoza. But you also have to look at the ceiling when you look at the AFC, because this is where this is who you're going against. In the AFC alone, you have Drake May, you have Josh Allen. The AFC South, a little up for grabs, but we'll see with Daniel Jones and CJ Stroud again, up and down. But look at this. AFC North, Joe Burrow when healthy and Lamar Jackson. AFC West, Justin Herbert. You have Patrick Mahomes. And look, I think Bo Nix is good enough to win. I mean, there's 7 playoff spots, and there's 7 really good quarterbacks I just mentioned. So you have to figure, can my quarterback be within that 7 at some point? And if the answer is no, I don't think you should draft him. But again, we'll have this debate all throughout the offseason as well. And look, Moore versus USC, again, that is a must watch at 3:30 tomorrow as well, Danger Zone. And look, there are certain quarterbacks, too, that I just look at, too. We don't know how they're going to look in the playoff. The playoff, I think, is going to be a huge determining factor. We're not going to know how they're going to look down the stretch. And look, I think that there is going to be a lot of Jets contingent at the Moore game tomorrow. But the thing with Moore is he can go back to school. Again, until Dante Moore says, I'm declaring for the NFL draft, I have to view it as, I'm not sure if he's going to come out. I'm sorry. I need to. That's the problem with the NIL now. You don't know who's coming out. I mean, there is a very real scenario. And again, I don't think the Jets can fully punt to 2027. They have another disaster year. It's going to be hard for Muji, and it's going to be hard for Aaron Glenn to keep their jobs. But if they just view the 2026 class as there's not a franchise guy, and again, a lot can change. I mean, 6 months ago, we thought Arch Manning was being the number 1 pick in this upcoming draft class, and that has dramatically changed. Draft classes change dramatically. But it's also interesting, too, because I'm very curious with Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn, what they're looking for in a quarterback. Are they going to look for the floor where the guy, they're like, this is the guy we feel at the very least is going to be the most solid quarterback? Or are they going to take the upside swing? Because, and again, I don't want to cause dramatic memories for the Jets. One of the reasons that I truly believe that the Jets drafted Zach Wilson was this. They said, look, there is a chance it could go horribly wrong. And it did. But they looked at that quarterback class and they said, and even Sam Darnold on their own team, and they said, if they reach their pinnacle, their absolute top of their game, this could be a player that has the talent to be an elite player. And we'll see with Aaron Glenn. Maybe Darren Muji, Aaron Glenn will prefer the floor and try to go from there. But they might look around this league. And again, like I said, you're going to see it this Sunday. I think Lamar Jackson is going to be a great benchmark. If you go on that field and Lamar Jackson drops 35 points on you, and you are looking at quarterbacks in this draft class, and you go, we do not have someone that can compete with that alien, then you don't draft that quarterback. So I think the Jets are in a tough place. And look, I could see a scenario where they try to bridge it with a veteran for a year and draft someone. Again, I think they're going to draft a quarterback in 2026, but maybe there's a scenario where they draft someone to develop on day 3. Maybe there's a quarterback that they like and say, look, if we can show we can at least develop and compete with this rookie, we can take a shot on another one in the upcoming draft. So again, comments, super chat to jump to the front of the line. I know where Milk D is. He wants Jeremiah Love. And look, I would love Jeremiah Love, but the other big thing too is the Jets. You're seeing it. You can't win without a quarterback. You cannot without quarterback. I mean, we're going to see too, like the Jets have so many picks now. They have the 2-day 2 picks. Like there's some interesting guys that I look in this draft and I'm like, do the Jets look for safety maybe in the second round? A guy I would keep an eye on is Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, the safety out of Toledo, bigger safety, 6'2", 202. And I just look at him like he can range as a safety. And look, he's not great at really catching the football, but you look at the tape though, this is someone that you look at with really a lot of upside. And I really think that when I look at the size of him, he's someone that's sparks who I think Aaron Glenn's looking for. I think they're looking for bigger players. I mean, I just don't know if like Norris Sellers, like if I'm him, I would go back to school. I would really consider. And that's the other thing too now with the NIL. If you're not a guaranteed top 10 pick, would you rather go back to college and make millions of dollars and improve your draft stock potentially, or take the risk in the NFL? And I think Quinn Ewers is going to be a cautionary tale. I mean, I just look at Ewers. He could have made $8 million reportedly at Texas, and he's making less than $800,000 with the Dolphins. So I do think that is something that you're going to definitely have to keep an eye on. But look, maybe they go Chris Bell like early in the second round. A lot of corners in this draft. But again, there's so many edges in this draft. This is a very good edge draft. And, you know, especially for danger zone. Like I also curious too, because again, you're talking about the USC game. I'm curious if they're going to look at, I always butcher his last name. So I'm just going to say Mateo for the edge from Oregon. Once again, bigger based edge, 6'5", a little bit over the 270 spot. You know, he can go up and down. He can play with his hand in the dirt, stamp on the outside, has a really good toolbox of move. And look, I know he only has 4 sacks, but he has a really good pressure rate. And he's someone that's also constantly putting effort in the run and the pass game. Like he doesn't take a play off. Like I just look at him as a guy, like he reminds me a lot of Jermaine. Like I could see like Aaron Glenn looking like if I could get 2 bookends like that and then have Will McDonald as my pass rush specialist as the edge position, that could definitely be something I could see as well. Like there's so many receivers and edges. Part of it you also have to consider too is the way the board falls. Because yes, teams are going to draft a lot of wide receivers in this draft. Yes, teams are going to love the edges. But there's also going to be teams that are going to need offensive line, that are going to need tight ends. They're going to need certain positions. And that always pushes the board down. So maybe the Jets get a top 25 player somewhere in the early second round. All right. Draft best player available. The Jets did not trade Sauce and Q to acquire picks, just to trade for QB. The roster isn't good, especially the defense. And that's the tough part where the Jets are right now. Like, again, they need a quarterback, but I also don't know how good this roster is. And this is partially to when we look at Joe Douglas and the team that basically that Darren Muji took over. Again, I think a lot of it for Jets fans is we want hope because the Jets have been so bad. We want to get out of this rut. But maybe we over-evaluated the talent on this team. Because, again, the Jets had some really good talent in key areas. But we also knew they didn't have a lot of great depth. We also knew that they were very thin. And part of it, too, was maybe the Aaron Rodgers hype made us look at this roster and say, oh, he's going to pull this roster up. And even last year, I know Aaron was banged up. But this team also went out and got him his favorite toy, Devontae Adams. They had Garrett Wilson. They had all these pieces. And this team still only won 5 games. Now, again, I know the coaching didn't help. But when you look at this roster, a lot of the guys were still on this team from last year. And I just look at this core. I think that they realize, look, it's great to have a Sauce Gardner. It's great to have some top-end guys. It's great to have some A players. But when we don't have any B players or not a lot of season goes A to D on this roster, we're going to be in a lot of issues. And look, the draft picks also allows you to move around. Like the Jets could be picking in certain places and still accumulate picks. Like they have the 2 second-round picks. But part of what could be nice about that is they don't have the 3rd-round pick from the Hassan Reddick trade. Maybe they view that as a pick that they punt back and keep a couple more picks. I mean, right now, Indianapolis, if the Jets are picking today, they'd be the 28th pick in the draft. You could move up from 28th to the late 20s, maybe get a top 10 player that fell, or maybe there's a team that's desperate to get someone on their board and is willing to come up like other asset for the 2027 draft. I mean, what the draft picks do is they give you flexibility, whether that's trading for players, and the Jets have already done that with multiple 6th and 7th round picks, whether it's moving up and down the board. But the big thing I look for too is if the Jets don't love a quarterback in this draft, they're going to have to figure out what to do is figure out, for me right now, this roster, they do need more talent. It's clear. And again, some really good suggestions here by Wild Chew. But the other big thing I look at too is they just need depth. One thing that this organization has lacked tremendously is just good depth. Where if a star player goes down, we're like, oh, they're screwed because the next guy up probably shouldn't be on an NFL roster. And that really led to my point when I looked at a lot of the trades, especially on offense. If A.D. Mitchell and John Mechie look like legitimate depth receiver pieces, that's two things that the Jets don't have to sign. They don't have to bring in during the offseason, which means they can maybe invest in another tight end, maybe invest in a defensive end in free agency, maybe invest in another linebacker, maybe invest in another corner. It allows the Jets a lot more flexibility. And my other thing, too, is, and I've seen this a lot, and I understand a certain portion of the fan base, I don't concern myself with tanking. I look at it as the season ends where it ends, and you have to go from there. And the other thing, too, it's not good for your mental health. I'll tell you that. Like the tank for Trevor thing, I think ruined a lot of us as fans. But the big thing I just look for down the stretch is, again, I want to see the coaching staff continue to evolve. And again, I've seen better things from this coaching staff in recent weeks. I want to see if this offense can actually function. But then the other big thing, too, is like I want to see Steve Wilks. Can he improve? And if he can't, then I think it's clear you need to get a new voice for this defensive room. Because this Jet team, I do think that there are certain key pieces here that I like for next year. I like Jawan Briggs as an early first or second down defensive tackle. I like Harrison Phillips as a really good leader and valuable defensive tackle. I like the upside of Amazi Smith. I like the upside of, bringing in other guys on this team like Brownlee, who's a young, hungry player. I like the upside of Mechie. Look, I'm kind of bullish on Mechie. I think Mechie can just be a really good number 3. A.D. Mitchell to me is more the wild card because we know the talent, we know the explosiveness. But the problem is, can you get that production? I think Mechie can be a very productive number 3 receiver. But like I said, this whole thing, this whole week, this whole last couple games, this whole benching Tyrod, playing Tyrod, it really came down to one simple thing for me, and that was this. It was, who gives you the best chance to evaluate this roster? Because you can't evaluate this roster when you're afraid to let the quarterback throw 25 to 30 times a game. You're not evaluating this roster when you are running an offense that the service academies runs. You are not evaluating this defense when, unfortunately, your team is constantly behind. You have a quarterback that can't throw. You're not helping this offensive line. You're not helping this receiving core. Like, the Jets need answers. Like, right now, we know the Jets are not a good team. The big thing right now for this New York Jets team is finding out who is going to be a member of the 2026 team and who can contribute. Not be a starter necessarily, but can they be a situational player? Do they have a role for the team next year? And that, to me, is very important. You look at this draft class. If we know what Membu is, but Mason Taylor, I think, is a really good tight end. Is he elite tight end? Well, we're going to have to see with Tyrod Taylor. Does he get more production? Do they give him more first reads? Does he become more the tight end? Does A.Z. Thomas look like a starting caliber corner going into next year? If he does, that checks off a box you don't have to check. Does Malachi Moore look like a safety, at the very least, is a interchangeable safety or can start in a pinch? Maybe not every down starter, maybe not every game starter, but is a key role player in that secondary. Can, Tyler Barron actually show some flashes? Can Kiko continue to improve on his run stop abilities? And with Kiko at the linebacker position, you can see the ability to stop the run in early downs. But can he learn some pass coverage? Can he be able to cover out of the backfield? Is he able to develop into a bit of a blitzer? Like, there's certain questions. And Arian Smith, can he find a role, whether it's a gadget guy, whether it's a go ball guy, whether it's a kick return guy? Because guess what? Wangu's on the shelf again. It looks like the hamstring. I doubt he plays this week. Does Arian Smith get a chance to return kicks? I mean, Isaiah Williams, does he get more opportunities to deserve kicks? And look, this has been an incredibly frustrating year. I mean, heck, it's been a frustrating decade and a half. But for this team, for this game, I want to look at this big picture. Because I think that this is also another thing I have to stress too. There are certain games on this schedule where it is clear that right now the Jets are going to be outmanned. Just don't get embarrassed. And even if they get embarrassed, like, this is one of the games I look at, maybe the Patriots being the other one. But I just look at the games, like, there's certain games, like, I expect the Jets to compete and try to pull out a win. To me, realistically, I think that they are the 4 games after this. Can you win go 500, get 2 wins, or go 3-4 against against the Falcons at home, the Dolphins at home, the Jaguars on the road, and the Saints on the road? Can you go 2-4 in that stretch, 3-1? Those to me are the games that are in more of your ballpark now, especially Penix out with the Falcons. Dolphins, again, are all over the place, but I want to see you get an AFC East win at home. The Jaguars, I don't think, are good. The Saints, I don't think, are good. And then the Patriots and Bills in the last 2 weeks, like, I'd love to beat the Patriots, but just don't get embarrassed. Like, and that's how I kind of feel with this Ravens game. And in the Bills game, let's be honest, like, I was looking at this game, like, at the beginning of the season, I kept saying, oh, week 18, Bills will have clinched the division. But let's also look at this right now too. The Bills are a bit of a vulnerable spot. They're now 7-4 after the loss against the Texans. And you look at the AFC, I mean, Broncos are 9-2, Colts are 8-2, Patriots are 9-2, and even the wild card's going to be crazy. Steelers 6-4, Ravens 5-5. Again, I don't know how the Dolphins have 4 wins. That's just too crazy to me, especially because they've won 2 in a row. Like, I don't know how that happened. I mean, you look at the AFC South, Jaguars are 6-4, Texans are 6-5, Chargers are 7-4, Chiefs are 5-5. I mean, it's going to be a crazy wild card. Like, I really do believe the Bills are going to be playing for their playoffs lives in that week. Can you play a little bit of an upsetter? Like, that's what I would love to see too. Look, there's certain matchups, Milk D, I think they can match up well. I think they're very good in the middle about stopping the run. We know the Ravens want to get that. But the one thing I get worried about is we've seen this defense not have discipline. And I think the best example is the Josh Allen game earlier this year. They didn't have a plan to contain him or spy him. And that to me is concerning because, again, I think they have the personnel and the defense to make it competitive, but is Wilks going to give them the best game plan? I'm not sure. And look, if I'm the Jets, I come out throwing. I come out doing something that people aren't expecting. I try to get an early lead. I do what they did against the Patriots. You win the coin toss, get the ball first. Go down the field. Get at least a field goal. Get ahead. Have a lead. So you have to have put the Ravens behind it a little bit early. I mean, that's the way I look at it. And the other thing, too, is, again, like, show that you're going to show up and play. Again, this is going to be a tough game, but, the Ravens are already, like, looking forward. I mean, they're trying to play catch-up right now. I mean, they had a tough game against the Browns last week. They have a rivalry game, short week. I mean, this, to me, is a good trap game for the Jets. You have a team in the Ravens that are going to be playing the primetime game on Thanksgiving at home. Maybe they're looking a little ahead against, again, it's the Bengals. I know they're not great, but again, it's a rival. It's a divisional rival. Like, this is a trap game. Like, go out and make this so when I watch this game, I think the Jets have a shot in the fourth quarter. Just do that. Like, even in the Patriot game, the thing that frustrated the Patriot game, I'm like, if you put Tyrod in, and they might have a shot. So But again, let's see how they do. We will be on the air, of course, after that game, too. One of the things with this channel is we come live after every Jets game. So we'll break down the Jets and Ravens this Sunday. So make sure to jump on, like, and subscribe so you don't miss anything. And again, make sure to reach out to us in the comments section. If you weren't able to join us during the live stream, I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. But that's going to do it for this episode of Rich Sports Talk. Again, I thought this was just a good refresher, and I thought this was a good chance for us to just look at the Jets' big picture the rest of the season and moving forward to 2026. Again, we'll do more focusing on games. We'll get more great Jets content creators like Danger Zone to join us here on Rich Sports Talk. And, of course, we have so much draft content in the offseason. We do full 7-round mock drafts. We bring in a lot of experts here. We will talk about the draft at nauseum because, again, we're Jets fans and we're used to it. But, again, thank you, everyone, for joining us for Rich Sports Talk. Hit that like and subscribe button to help us with that algorithm to get more great New York Jets fans to the channel. And, of course, if you can't listen to us live, take us on the go wherever podcasts are available. Thank you, everyone, for joining us here on Rich Sports Talk. We will see you next time.